You know that friend who always cancels plans? The one who's suddenly sick, suddenly tired, suddenly just not feeling it tonight? Everyone thinks they're flaky, unreliable, maybe a little selfish. But nobody asks what's actually going on. That friend isn't avoiding you. They're trying to protect something they don't even have words for yet. And if you've ever felt more at peace on a Friday night alone than in a room full of people having fun, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. You just never had anyone explain it back to you. So let's do that. Let's talk about the psychology of people who love staying at home. The ones who get called boring, antisocial, weird. The ones who've spent years wondering if something's wrong with them because they don't want what everyone else seems to want. There's nothing wrong with you, but you're going to need to hear why before you actually believe it. Most people think loving to stay home just means you're introverted. You don't like people, end of story. But that's not it. That's not even close. There's this concept in psychology called optimal arousal theory. Sounds complicated, but it's really not. It just means different people need different amounts of stimulation to feel okay. Some people need a lot. Noise, movement, crowds, unpredictability. That's what makes them feel alive. Their brains are literally hungry for more input. And then there are people whose brains are already busy. Already processing, already running at full speed on the inside. For them, adding more stimulation from the outside doesn't feel exciting. It feels like too much, like being asked to have 3 conversations at once while someone plays music you didn't choose and strangers keep brushing past you. That exhaustion you feel after a party, even when you had a good time, that's not you being antisocial. That's your nervous system saying it hit its limit 2 hours ago and you've been running on fumes ever since. That craving for silence after a day full of meetings and small talk, that's not you being difficult. That's your body telling you what it actually needs. And most people never listen to that voice because they've been taught it's something to overcome instead of something to honor. See, extroverts recharge around people. That's where their energy comes from. But people on the other end, they recharge in stillness, in quiet, in the absence of all that noise everyone else seems to need. For them, home isn't where they go to hide from life. Home is where they go to come back to themselves. But there's something else going on too. Something that goes deeper than just energy. Control. Think about what the outside world actually feels like when you're someone who notices everything. You walk into a cafe and there's music you didn't pick, conversations bleeding into each other, the temperature's wrong, and you're absorbing the mood of every stranger, whether you want to or not. You go to a party and suddenly you're stuck in small talk with someone who asks how you're doing, but doesn't actually want to know. You make plans and then something changes last minute. And now your whole system has to readjust to a reality you didn't prepare for. Out there, everything is unpredictable. And for people who grew up in chaos, or who carry anxiety, or who just feel things more intensely than most, that unpredictability isn't just annoying, it's destabilizing. It's exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to someone who doesn't feel it. But at home, you decide the lighting, the sounds, the temperature, who comes in and when. You control the pace of your own thoughts. Nobody interrupts, nobody demands, nobody drains. For people who spent years feeling like the world was something that happened to them instead of something they got to shape, having a space they fully control isn't about being lazy or avoidant. It's about finally being able to exhale. It's survival dressed up as preference. And that's what people don't get when they look at someone who'd rather stay in. They see someone missing out. They don't see someone who finally found the one place where they don't have to perform, adapt, or shrink. They don't see someone who's actually more themselves at home than they've ever been anywhere else. If you felt that in your chest just now, drop a comment. Just say, same, I want to know how many of us have been building our own quiet worlds while everyone else tells us we should be somewhere louder. Now here's something people don't talk about enough. Society loves to frame staying home as doing nothing, wasting time, being unproductive, like the only things that count are the ones that happen out there, in public, with witnesses. But research actually shows the opposite. People who enjoy solitude tend to be more creative, more introspective, better at solving problems that require deep thinking. And if you think about it, that makes sense. Creativity doesn't show up in the middle of a loud bar. It shows up in the shower, during a 2 a.m. thought spiral, while you're staring out a window letting your mind go wherever it wants. The best ideas don't come from crowded rooms. They come from quiet ones, from that space between distractions where your brain finally has room to make connections nobody else is looking for. Psychologists have a term for this: low stimulation preference, and people who have it don't need the world to entertain them. Their inner world is already enough. They can sit in silence and feel everything. They notice what other people miss. They think in layers most people don't access because most people are too busy chasing the next notification, the next event, the next hit of external validation. That's not a limitation, that's just a different way of processing the world, one that doesn't advertise itself, but runs deep. So, where does this actually come from? Why do some people crave crowds while others find peace in empty rooms? Like most things about who we are, it usually starts in childhood. Some people learn to love solitude gently. They had parents who read in the evenings instead of always having the TV on, who showed them that being alone wasn't something scary, who gave them space to think, to imagine, to just be. These kids grew up knowing that quiet could feel safe, that stillness could be rich, that you didn't need constant noise to feel whole. But for other people, the story's different. Some learned to love staying home because the outside world never felt safe. Maybe school was overwhelming. Maybe social situations felt like puzzles everyone else had the answer key to accept them. Maybe they were always the quiet one who didn't quite fit with the loud kids. For them, home became the only place where things made sense, where they could predict what would happen next. And somewhere along the way, that coping mechanism became identity. What started as survival became preference. And then there's a third pattern nobody really talks about. Some people grew up in homes that were unpredictable, chaotic, emotionally volatile, and for them, loving a peaceful home now isn't about recreating what they knew. It's about creating what they never had. They build calm because calm was never given to them. They protect their quiet because quiet was once the only place they could breathe without waiting for the next explosion. Here's what matters though. Whether your love of staying home came from gentle nurturing or from figuring out how to survive, it doesn't make it less real. The origin doesn't determine whether it's valid. What matters is whether it serves you now, whether it gives you life or slowly takes it away. Because loving your home isn't a flaw. It's often a sign that somewhere along the way, you figured out what you needed to feel okay, and you found a way to give it to yourself. Most people never learn how to do that. Okay, I need to be honest about something now, because not everyone who stays home is doing it for healthy reasons. And if we're going to talk about this, we have to talk about the shadow side too. For some people, home is a sanctuary. For others, it's become a cage. And the tricky part is they can look exactly the same from the outside. There's a difference between staying home because it fills you up and staying home because leaving feels impossible. One is peace, the other is hiding. One restores you. The other slowly shrinks your world until the walls feel like the only thing keeping you together. If you stay home because you genuinely love it, because your mind gets quiet there, because you come alive in the stillness, that's alignment. That's you knowing yourself and honoring it. But if you stay home because going out feels terrifying, because you're scared of being judged or rejected or seen, because there's a voice in your head saying, nothing out there matters anyway, that's something else. That's not preference. That's pain disguising itself as preference. and those two things require very different responses. Only you know which one you're actually living. So ask yourself, when you choose to stay home, does it feel like returning to yourself? Or does it feel like running from something you're afraid to face? Does your solitude fill you up? Or does it quietly make your life smaller? This isn't about judging yourself, it's about being honest, because the same behavior can come from completely different places. And knowing which one you're in is how you make sure your home stays a refuge and never becomes a trap. Let me show you what I mean. Picture two people, Sarah and Michael. Sarah works all week surrounded by people, meetings, calls, the constant hum of an open office. By Friday night, she's done, not because she hates her job, but because her system has been processing non-stop for 5 days. Her friends text about going out. She feels that familiar guilt. She should want to go. Normal people want to go, but everything in her is asking for silence. So she says no, orders food, puts on something comfortable, spends the night reading or watching something that makes her feel something real, or just sitting in her own space doing nothing at all. By Sunday, she feels like herself again, not just rested, restored. Her solitude wasn't avoidance, it was exactly what she needed. Now picture Michael. His Friday night looks exactly the same. Home alone, comfortable, no plans, but underneath it's a different story. Michael isn't staying home because solitude restores him. He's staying home because the thought of being around people makes his chest tight. What if they judge him? What if he says something stupid? What if he's too quiet, too awkward, too much of something, or not enough of something else? So he stays in, and he tells himself it's because he's an introvert, that he just prefers it this way. But his solitude doesn't restore him. It feeds a story he's been telling himself for years, that he's safer alone, that people don't really want him around anyway, that it's easier to just disappear. His world gets a little smaller every month, not because he's honoring who he is, but because he's stuck in a loop he doesn't know how to break. Same behavior, completely different thing happening inside. Sarah doesn't need to change anything. She just needs to stop apologizing for who she is. But Michael might need something else. Not forced socializing, but maybe some help understanding why leaving feels so heavy. Whether that weight is protecting him or holding him hostage. For those of you who recognized yourself more in Sarah than Michael, I want to say something. You're not missing out, you're just living a different kind of life. The world keeps selling this idea that a good life looks a certain way. Travel photos, party memories, a social calendar with no empty nights, and maybe that is a good life. For some people, but it's not the only version. It's just the loudest one. There's another way to live, quieter, built on small rituals instead of big events, on depth instead of breadth, on knowing yourself fully instead of being known by everyone. People who love staying home find joy in things most people rush past. The morning coffee made exactly the way they like it. That one corner of the couch where the afternoon light hits just right. The comfort of re-watching something familiar instead of chasing something new. A real conversation with one person instead of surface-level small talk with 20. That's not a lesser life, it's just a different one. And for some people, it's the only one that actually feels like theirs. If you've ever felt guilty for preferring your own company, if you've ever forced yourself out because you thought you were supposed to want to go, if you've ever wondered why you're so tired in situations that seem to energize everyone else, maybe it's time to stop fighting it. You don't have to want what they want. You don't have to recharge the way they recharge. You don't have to prove you're healthy by pretending to be someone you're not. You're wired for depth, for quiet, for an inner world that takes time to build and even longer to understand. And that's not something to fix, that's something to protect. So here's what I'll leave you with. Next time someone calls you boring for staying in, remember that boring is just what people say when they don't understand depth. Next time you feel guilty for cancelling plans, ask yourself if you're avoiding life or just listening to what your body actually needs. Next time the world tells you that you should want more, louder, bigger, remember that some of the most meaningful lives happen in quiet rooms, behind closed doors, in the company of no one but yourself. You're not antisocial, you're selective. And there's a difference. You're not lazy. You're intentional about where your energy goes because you know it's not unlimited. You're not missing out on life. You're living it, just differently, at your own pace, in your own space, on your own terms. And if no one said this to you in a while, let me. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to want more. You don't need to perform a version of yourself that exhausts you just to seem normal. You work differently than most people. You need different things, and the people who get that, the ones who don't make you feel weird for it, they'll find you. They'll sit with you in the quiet and actually enjoy it. The ones who don't, they were never going to understand anyway. And that's okay. Not everyone needs to. So, go home, stay home. Let it be the place where you become more of yourself instead of less, where you don't have to shrink or perform or pretend. Because at the end of the day, the life that fits you is the only one worth living, even if it's quieter than everyone else's, even if no one else sees it, even if the only witness is you. If this made sense to you, hit subscribe. There's more coming. Stuff that goes deeper into the parts of yourself you've been trying to figure out for years.